with applying for incorporation, and then after that, the nonprofit status. I'm just talking.
That's
I'm
okay.
gonna mute.
Yeah, Erica did say at one of our last meetings that since she's been teaching that class, she'd be really happy to give us here's really simple steps to go forward. And that's been remarkably helpful. I'm afraid I don't know who to credit. Deb, have you been the one owning this so far?
I think it's a team effort.
Okay. All right. I am happy to let whomever wants to lead this. I can just be a face in the background.
I don't know if anyone wants to jump in. I don't particularly need to lead it. I'm just not sure where we were, sorry, with our chat. But to answer questions, my understanding is when we get started, I'm sorry, I'm hiding in a bedroom and now I'm seeing like the lights reflecting in the mirror. So my apologies. There was a question earlier about like, how formal do we have to be to elect officers and that kind of thing. And I think that we have two separate tasks that we need to handle. We can handle the part about we're a concerned group of parents who want to start a PTO and these are the steps we need to follow. And then once we're at official PTO, we can hold official elections for those officers. So we can kind of have committees right now and say, you know what, these three people are going to work on, because there is a flow of steps that we need to follow. If we want to be incorporated, which is always a good idea, that comes first. Otherwise, we have to refile that after. If we do the 501c3 stuff through the IRS, then we would have to go backwards and do the incorporation. So we have to do the incorporation through the state first. Then we have to do the 1023 through the IRS to do the 501c3 program. Then we can, and there's a lot of questions that need to be answered to do that. So that's where we'll have to have our mission. That's where we'll have to have our bylaws. That's where we'll have to have sort of some guidelines on how we're going to fundraise and those things for that form. And then we can hold official meetings and do elections is kind of my understanding.
So it sounds like where we're at right now is we just need to say, okay, we are the concerned parents and we need to get this ball moving.
Right. So we need to say who's doing what.
Conceivably set up separate committees today. And so then maybe we can schedule another meeting then where the committees reconvene with whatever they've determined in those different areas. Okay.
And some steps are really quick, easy, painless, like just the incorporation part is pretty quick and easy online. The 1023 part is more extensive because that's where you have to really kind of flesh out, what you want things to look like.
And that would be more getting our bylaws and everything nailed down. And that's gonna be a little bit more of the arduous task.
Yep.
Kat and I were discussing briefly earlier that the topic for our next meeting, we could actually have mostly around solidifying this as a PTO. So we tentatively have about 30 minutes tonight. So maybe we identify who wants to claim setting up the, I'm sorry, my brain is gone. There is a link in this document that we can click on to fill it out, the organization. And maybe the next meeting then as we talk about what needs to happen within the next process so that we can create whatever subcommittees we need to. Does that seem okay?
Are you talking about the next regular SSC meeting, Marco?
Yes, that's on the 14th.
I was just gonna say, remind me when that was.
Yeah, but it's in a couple of weeks. So
on actually, Valentine's night.
Yup.
Okay.
I'll wear pink.
I mean, my idea of a hot date anymore is to go grocery shopping with only my spouse. I love how much decorum our crew has. Anyway, so it seems like the first thing is really just to do the incorporation so that is started. Is that like first step? Pretty straightforward.
Does anyone want to own that? I have like 0 time. I'm happy to give the $20 to make it happen.
If nobody else is jumping, I'll own it. If somebody else is like, I would love to take step 1, I won't.
I'm
argue
doing
with
small
you.
business taxes right now.
All right, I'll take step one.
All right, excellent.
My suggestion would be for the next overall SSC meeting is if we can work on fleshing out what the bylaw steps are, like what exactly we have to have in it. And that might be a group task that might be a Marco, we need to sit down and have a cup of coffee and say, okay, what has to be in the agenda so that we can give people information. But I mean, it's been such a good group effort so far that I don't think it's,
Yeah,
excuse me, you guys have been amazing. I've been down with a cold, not COVID, but a cold. So I've been kind of MIA. I apologize.
you're allowed every now and again. This one time.
Man, this has really kicked my butt too. And I kept getting checked. And I was like, nope, cold still exists. Darn.
Kat,
I-
one thought.
Go ahead.
Sorry. I just to say one thought might be that if there are, a few people who wanted to have a side conversation before, like an early subcommittee before the full SSC meeting, that might be a really hard conversation to have during a whole SSC meeting, because it would require a lot of getting into the weeds, for like really fleshing out the mission statement. I think we already have some really good starts to work off of the things we talked about earlier in the year, but kind of maybe have that subcommittee form now if there's anyone who's interested, and then we can recruit more people for that, since it will be an ongoing process. I could just foresee that being a really lengthy sort of topic at the regular meeting.
Deborah, do you have a suggestion of what areas we need to work on? And like, what do we need to flesh out before we do this? And then maybe those are the committees that we can create.
Well, I remember I wrote some things down really quick before we met. I was trying to go off the top of my head. I know that when you file with the IRS, that paperwork, you have to have the full mission statement. So, that in and of itself, just sort of tweaking that and really kind of reflecting on what how our role will be, especially having the two schools too. So how that's going to look and pull that in. The bylaws, like I said, there's a lot of, or like Kat said too, there's a lot of kind of guidelines online to go with, to kind of start with some basic, bylaws, and then sort of plug in things that make sense for Greenspire and maybe, update wording and that kind of thing.
Okay.
So those I think would be the two biggest parts. And then, how we anticipate to fundraise and how we anticipate to do other things will sort of be wrapped into that too. Those are some of the other types of questions on that. So I think the two biggest things would be like nailing down the mission and nailing down bylaws, if that's like good places to start.
I have to admit, go ahead.
I was just going to clarify. So potentially would set up a committee that would do each of these things, and then they would present to a group again like this, what their ideas are for discussion. And then we decide that what we want to move forward with. And then we would meet again as a more formal board to choose the board members. Is that kind of the flow, you think?
Well, those are the things that are required to do the 1023 easy or the 1023, whichever way we end up going. The 1023 is more basic and cheaper to file with the IRS to become an official 501c3. So that would be, it would be identifying that stuff, completing the required forms and paperwork, applying, waiting for the feedback, the approval to actually become official. If that's what you're asking, Rose.
With actually voting for for board members, I think that has to be a general thing. So the other parents, guardians, people involved, not just the people on the committee. So that has to be an open election, which is actually, am I incorrect?
No, that's completely correct.
Okay, but that was my understanding from former PTO days. And the nice thing about that is it's pretty straightforward because we can use whatever voting, what have you, Google Forms if we're doing a Zoom meeting. Like it can be pretty straightforward as long as everything can be tracked and shows that it's equitable.
Sorry, what does that mean? It goes out to everybody or just the 9 people that show up to the meeting?
That's a good question. With in-person meetings for the PTOs that it was people who actually came to the meeting. So it would be really good incentive for people to come to the meeting. With us having everything virtual, I don't know if there is an instance of being able to absentee vote. Do you know, Deborah?
No, you cannot. Right now,
Okay, thank you for
particularly with the
that.
Open Meetings Act, all votes have to occur in person.
Nice to have a board member.
Yeah.
And that's how we had done it before too. Even when we went to virtual, and that was written into our bylaws, is that whoever was in attendance at the meeting, that became the members for those topics that were discussed and voted on during that meeting. So that way you don't have to be there at every meeting to be, a PTO member. You can be there and have a voice or not, but you have to be there to have a vote.
I would be happy to be part of the committee to start creating the bylaws. It's a big task, but I have a lot of experience with it.
Awesome.
I am cool with joining on with you too, Marco. Detail stuff like that is something I
Hey,
can do.
Stephanie, do you want to work on the mission?
Sure. I'm wondering if we should put a trajectory date, like a goal date for this kind of completion,
That's a really good
you
idea.
think?
I think that we should have all of these set up with goal dates set up in mind. And that, I think that means, at least for the bylaws side, perhaps what our first goal should be is that Rose and I meet to discuss what has to happen, what has to be there. So that way we can create a more solid plan with goals along the way.
You feel like you
Okay.
guys can do that before the 14th?
I could make time, Rose, if you have
I
the
think so, too.
availability. Sweet.
Yep.
And Jennifer and Carla, I don't mean to say, if you want to jump on either of these, absolutely do.
Yes, we welcome any input. If you would like to help, we would love to have you.
Stephanie, do you need help with mission statement?
I'd love that. I bet you're great at that, you too.
I have no idea how to do this for this, but I will certainly try.
We've
Jennifer,
got,
you have a magic touch with everything you do, so you're good.
isn't she great?
Aw.
We have a really sweet sort of vibe
Or
written down already, and I think it just needs to be
Just like straight, yeah, just kind of
that way.
filtered.
I think the three of
Yeah.
us will really get this nailed.
Oh yeah, editing, less words, less words. I'm a
I don't know
great
how we can top that, Marco.
What?
I don't know how and we'll be able to top that.
Can you do less? No, bylaws won't be able
no,
to be
no.
much less words.
No.
We'll give you all the words.
Yes, we'll use all your extra words.
So just to clarify, so I make sure that I'm on the right page here. So we've got two committees that are going to work on the mission statement, the bylaws. And while we're doing that, Deborah's going to file the initial paperwork. And our goal is to have the bylaws and the mission statement and ready to go for our next meeting, which is on the 14th, to present to the SSC. That sound
And do we want to have some drafts pushed forward to a bigger group that everybody will look at? Or are you trusting the different entities to do these things?
I think it would be good to offer that forward as like presenting it to the group. If you have something available, we can post that along with the meeting notes so people have the chance to review it. But
Mhm. And then they can give feedback before or at the meeting.
So right now, Carla and Jen, we are working through a messenger group and also sort of through a Discord group. What's the best way to put you on a group chat?
What are the options? I don't have Discord.
So I've
Facebook.
been doing Messenger or Discord. And Discord's pretty easy to add.
Okay.
Jen, you're on Discord. And you're muted.
Yes, I get Discord.
and if it's
Put Discord on my computer if we want to go that way.
Or Messenger because the Kat, Marco, Deb, and Rose and I all do Messenger. So it would just mean that the Lees need to add Messenger. So
Yep.
I have both of those. I actually have Discord on my phone because they have a pretty solid app. which I find a lot easier to use than Facebook Messenger actually, but that's whatever your preference, Carla, it'll work.
Actually, one thing I would recommend, particularly as we're going to be going forward into making this an official PTO, I would definitely recommend Discord over Facebook Messenger, because Facebook Messenger is tied into our personal accounts. In Discord, we can have separate servers. So if there's ever a FOIA produced for things that we're doing, I would much rather hand over Discord server than all of my personal Facebook stuff.
And that was something I was gonna say too, is once everything's kind of official and rolling and there's officers elected, we should probably look up setting up actual, board related email. So everything can go through that too versus personal
Yes.
emails and that kind of thing. Everything will be separated.
Do we need to have it one separate from the actual Gmail that is SSC designated that we have
Yes,
set up?
because we'll want
Okay.
different members to have them.
Oh, right, sorry.
Get home, Holden. Oops, sorry.
What was that, Carla? Oh,
Sorry, I was telling Holden to start Audible.
oh
Sorry.
okay. That's all good. Yeah, at that point, I can buy a domain, and I'll host our WordPress site under a domain, so we can each have, maybe we have an officer email address, on a per officer basis, so that way you guys don't have to worry individually. We can figure that out. But I find it really important. When I joined the Greenspire board, I made sure that Kevin created Greenspire emails for all of us, because I'm not opening up my personal Gmail for Freedom of Information Act.
I'm super naive about this kind of stuff. Like, that's really troubling to me.
Sounds like a great subject for an SSC meeting,
Yeah.
Marco. For
I
the
know.
parents, not just about the kids' safety, but our as parents.
So Deb, are you on Discord with us?
I'll get there.
So it sounds like
I just
sounds like-
ignored that conversation until it
I
comes and bites
know.
me. So I'll get there.
If anyone
So
needs assistance, I'd be happy to help you.
it sounds like we want to stop doing the SSC communication on Messenger, and we want to strictly do it through either an alias email or Discord, period. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah. I mean, we do not have to worry about that until we actually make this official. Once we voted in a board, that's when we should transition.
But anything we can have in place before then, it's just going to make it easier for everybody and for future boards too.
Correct. And as far as making this all as public as possible, one thing I want to bring back up again is how do we make sure that we're letting people know that this is happening? I know there are some people who are actively involved when they know about things, but I don't know how to message them. I don't know how to get a hold of people. I know, Stephanie, with you standing in Carline with your sign, we've actually gotten a lot more people aware, which is amazing. But I guess something to have in the back of your minds. I still would welcome any input on how we can reach more people.
Hmm.
Go ahead, Carla.
Oh, I was just gonna say, for me, what alerted me was just an email from Greenspire that just gave me the time and the day, and then that got me on this. Holden says hi.
Hi, Holden.
So
So
maybe if-
Carla, but
Yeah.
it was not an email from Robert though, was it? Or was it from Eric?
from Robert, no, because I was trying to find the Zoom link and it wasn't through Robert that I found it. So it was a I Googled Greenspire.
I think
Yeah.
that, so you must be on the MailChimp, I'm thinking. So
Okay.
Carla, you
I'm
are.
not
You asked me to
entirely-
add you at some point.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure. I'm not entirely sure what's happening. So we haven't met. Carla, I've got a sixth grader. And so it's
Oh.
just, I'm a first timer and have been
Got it.
going to these meetings.
Okay.
But it does seem like, I don't think I'm speaking out of turn, that maybe Robert does not want to do these huge blast outs
Yeah.
all of the time, but it does seem like we get more people every time, the few times that he has done a
Okay.
blast out. So we've got this MailChimp that Marco and Kat manage. And I'm guessing that you signed up at some point, and that is how you got the information for
Yes.
tonight. Jennifer and Walter, are you on that MailChimp list?
No, I don't think so. I have seen references to the SSC in Robert's recent letters. I see you in the car line. I'm not on Facebook. And then on Discord, I figured it out enough to kind of check in every now and then, especially if you do something, you send something to me and I go, oh, what's going on? And then I'll look, and I've been successful at finding the Sign Up Genius on Discord.
Okay.
But before I got to Discord, I could never tell where to look for information. It was ridiculous. And do we not have access to all the emails of the parents? Does he not want us to do that?
We've never had access to it.
I actually did, let me pull it up before I say this, but because early on I was pretty concerned about the fact that all of our emails and contact information was live on the Greenspire website. And so since that time, the board has decided to pull them from there. So they are no longer on there, which is fantastic. But I have a list of everyone's contact. Only thing is how to easily, and Marco, maybe this is something that you can do, I'm not sure, but it's like in a PDF format. So you can like right click on it to select the email so we have access. We can go through and get them all. I have them for both the middle school and the high school. Because I see.
Was that the list of information that the parents opted in to have their contact information available?
Yep. So it's like the directory.
Yep. Okay. I want just double checking.
So we could conceivably send out an email through that and just one email and say, if you would like to opt in to communications from the SSC, here is the MailChimp, information. So rather than blasting them on a regular basis, it's potentially a one-touch thing saying, hey, we're going to be creating a PTO. This is your opportunity to join in, or even just be aware of what we're doing. Because I agree. I think that for some reason, Robert has been hesitant to put out too much from us. Although, I mean, he did one time, right? A couple of weeks ago.
And I think that if we do that, I love that, Rose. I think that we have to do that. I'm hearing from so many of the people that I know that are not on Facebook, that are not familiar with Discord, that are trying to get MailChimp figured out, and they just can't manage it.
Yeah.
I think that if we do that, and I think we have to say, you have got to opt in. You've got to get us VIP access, and don't, because it will go to your junk. MailChimp goes straight to my junk mail. And this is the only way that SSC is going to communicate with you. We are not going through all school or something like that. Truly, Virginie Canner loses her mind when something goes through a different channel. She's like, why is this not school-wide? Why is this not school-wide? And I have to say, I don't know. Like, we're trying to make it school-wide. It's just not school-wide. It isn't. So let's stop worrying about why it's not school-wide, and let's figure out how we can get to the people that need to be gotten to. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I would also note, for those of you who don't know, in the chat of this Zoom, I did put a link to our contact page, or our connection page. The SSC does have its own WordPress site. I try to keep it up to date with all the things that are going on, and I did create a connection page so someone in it with a single link can see all the different ways that we're trying to reach out to people. So it includes MailChimp and Discord and our Facebook group, emails, website.
I love that. I mean, I think that right there is exactly what we put in front of people, and only that. I mean, we just say, this is how you connect. We're trying to create a PTO. If you want to stay connected, opt in one of these ways or all of these ways.
I have a question. Just been poking around, and this is maybe an early on question I should have asked, is I don't see a straightforward place where the SSC website is easily clickable from the regular Greenspire website.
I asked Robert about that. He said it's in the toolbox, but I have never yet found it.
It is. If I can jump in, this is something we talked about early on, Rose and I. Like, Rose happened to hear about the SSC and was like, hey, this lady caught me in car line. I was like, what? So I think moving forward, it was Stephanie. I was thinking, who was that? That's the thing. If you happen, and that's like one of my pet peeves before when I was, on boards before too. It shouldn't just be who happens to talk to someone knows what's happening. Everything needs to be transparent. Everything needs to be out there. So if you want to engage, you easily can, so like, I get it. We've got it. Like I'm writing these notes. I'm like, okay, this sounds terrible when we talk. Well, if you follow us on Discord or WordPress, or if you dig in the toolbox, or if you follow Facebook, you know what I
Well,
mean? It's
that's what I
like,
was-
It's insanity. It's insanity.
It
It
is.
is.
And when I
It
went,
is.
because I've been looking for it before and I couldn't last school year, there's a whole new website this year. So I have no idea where it was last school year. It was probably somewhere in there, but it does seem like it's buried. It almost feels like you have to pull teeth to find the information to find us. And that is not what we want to have happen. We want
well,
this to
just
be.
to, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
go ahead.
No, I thought you were done. My computer's like glitching on me. I'm trying to like listen to see who's talking. I was just gonna say too, I think moving forward too, as we transition from SSC to PTO, it makes sense to people. Because I had seen SSC in the toolbox. I didn't even click on it. I was like, Student Support Council. I thought it was like an organization to help students who needed something, but I didn't realize it was a parent group. I thought it was something within the school. So I hadn't even gotten there. Granted, it was early in the year, but so I think not that that will solve everything, but it will be more recognizable and people will be like, oh, a PTO at the school. Like, I know, if I'm that person who wants to engage with that, I know what that is.
Can I
the
ask
other
a
thing?
question?
Oh, yeah, go
Sorry.
ahead.
Nope.
you're good.
I will bookmark it. I will bookmark.
All I was going to say was I had this discussion. Also, I don't mean to keep doing this, but back at my last board too, because same problems with any kind of, organization like this. And we had actually advocated in the enrollment paperwork to add one little line. And I know that's a big leap to get a school to do that, but one little line that people can opt in to receive. And so that way we get their communication stuff without it being partway through the year. And that way, everybody who fills out enrollment paperwork, can just say, yep, I want. So where the directory is, they do the same thing with, PTO communications. And I know that's not a now thing, but that way it's a way to kind of get, and we've got that clearinghouse of contacts versus like this backwards trying to like, are we allowed to use these because they opted into a directory, but they didn't opt into us, that kind of thing. So sorry, go ahead, Stephanie.
One of the things that first happened when I was the same way about the SSC, I was looking for something else. It happened to be the night of the first SSC meeting of the year. I truly randomly clicked on the thing and ended up, it was me and Kat and Marco, Sarah Payette and Erica Walsh. And that was it, right? That first one. And it was a complete accident, like 2 hours earlier that I clicked on this. And one of the conversation pieces was, I said, what in the heck is SSC? And we talked about how it isn't an inclusive terminology to talk about a PTO. Do we need to just get over that? And just a PTO is a PTO is a PTO. And maybe it's not inclusive, but a foster family can consider themselves a family. Like what, how do we jump that hoop of being inclusive, but also reach the people, be
Honestly,
right. Are you following me?
I actually have an idea. Is a very easy, well, I hope easy, is if we are able to add something in parentheses that just says our version of PTO on that piece of the website. Then it clears everything up.
We just come up with our own words for what PTO stands for. Everybody knows what PTO
Just put
is. but we can just
PTO
say
in parentheses.
physical
People trying.
organizers.
Yes.
And I mean,
People
that's
fun
something
organized.
we could talk to Jill or whomever, or Robert, whoever we need to talk to, and just say, hey, can we put in parentheses PTO next to the Student Support Council link in the toolbox? An immediate thing that we can do that can help parents, I think.
That's another question I have, Kat, before we go writing a mission statement. Is there a reason that there hasn't been, so they haven't called it PTO for obvious reasons, but has there been an organization providing those services to the school before? Have you guys really been able to fundraise and do that without the incorporation in the 501c3 before?
Marco, I'm gonna punt this one to you because we've had
Um,
this conversation.
There was, when this was the Family Teacher Council, that was before Kat and I took over. Family Teacher, I think that's what it was called. There were some things that occurred for fundraising. However, without having the PTO, we're extremely limited on what we can do. Any fundraising that does occur has to go into the general fund for the school because that's the only place that we can track it. And then we lose all control over what the intention of that money is. It has to follow the school's budgetary plans. So there have been a lot of things we've been able to do. We're currently doing a lot to support the staff, trying to make sure they stay sane and are able to show up every day so our kids can go to school. But that's kind of like individual donations that don't necessarily always go through us. So no, we have not really had the ability to do that.
And does the school want to have an organization to do those kinds of things? They want it.
Yes, they did not until Robert was here. When Robert came in, that's a question we had to bring back. And Robert is very pro, but so is Erica.
Okay, I was wondering if there was concern about these parent people dictating too much around the educational process.
That's not a hesitation I've seen so far. But I also think since Kat and I have taken over, there's been a lot more interaction between the administration and the SSC. Like, we know what each other is doing. We are always in support of what's going on. And communication's been very open and free. So I think that we've kind of earned a solid reputation so far.
Okay,
you
so
know, I was
the mission statement would be a little bit more along the lines of what a normal PTO would be doing when we design that, or is there anything special or out of the ordinary that our organization would like to provide that you might not see in a regular educational setting?
I think what we're probably going to see is just a lot of thought about how it's worded and less about how we're going to support the school because of us being treading very softly on inclusive wording. I'm sorry.
Have you seen those 5 W's, Jennifer? Have you seen the 5 W's that we came up with about who the SSC is?
I think
wonder if
I
I could-
did. I don't remember it, but I think I did see it written somewhere. So we'll just
When
use
we were
that.
talking about like the mission statement this fall, and it was like, if we're not an organized PTO, let's talk about gathering some folks and using some real words, because a lot of times a mission statement is just sort of gobbledygook, right? You know, like parents gathering together to support the blah. And it was like, no, let's say that we're a passionate group of generous individuals that are going to be there for the school community. And it felt really meaningful to me, those 5 W's, to be honest. And I would love a mission statement to go forward feeling really meaningful. I don't know. I just came out of a really not very meaningful meeting, so I might be passionate right now.
I
Could have been an
pasted that
email.
link in the chat also.
One thing I do think there are a lot of things that will be like a traditional PTO, us being able to fund particular projects that the teachers or the school wants to do. Being able to, I mean, there were some things that we threw around where in the past the kids have been able to go to Leonel Outdoor Center for a few days and talking about ways to make it more affordable for new parents or for, you know, anyone, or for field trips, for different supplies, for having special instruction, things that the school could actually come and ask us for. So very much like a regular PTO, but there may be things that aren't traditional school needs that we're going to be able to tackle also from that standpoint. And mostly this gives us a foundation to fundraise from, to remain completely transparent in accepting money, tracking that money, and giving it to the school for specific things and being able to earmark, okay, you guys said you needed this, we can raise this for XYZ. Then we're able to tell whomever we're fundraising from, this is the stool that we're fundraising for. Look, here's the stool you did fundraising for. And it gives us that ability to do that rather than everything going to the general fund. So there can be special missions, if you will. Does that make sense?
It does. The other thing I was thinking about where I've been frustrated with the lack of involvement is that junior high and secondary ed does not get parent involvement. They just don't. And, you know, preschool, elementary, that is where PTOs thrive. And I don't think that my kid's senior high school, he goes to West, I don't think there is a PTO. Like maybe there is, but I don't think there is.
It's buried in the
So-
toolbox.
So I think that I think it's great that there are that we're going forward and that we're just going to persevere and make sure that this happens.
I think the other important thing too is, you know, when we're official right now, there's a lot of behind the scenes conversations going that are, these are the needs that exist. So how can we scramble? How can we scramble? How can we scramble? Once we have an official PTO, we can fundraise as a nonprofit. So it's much more legitimate. People are much more willing to give us their money. And we have the line items like you're saying, Kat. So we've got a family, you know, support line item for however much per year. And we've got a staff support, you know, line item. We've got classroom supplies. We've got field trips. We've got, you know, all of those
We can have a
things. So
bona
it's not
fide
scramble.
budget.
Right. It's not scramble behind the scenes and always like this panic. We're tapping everybody out because we're all on overload, just trying to like, you know, we're going to do it the right way. We're going to plan ahead. We're going to be organized, and people will engage with that because it makes much more sense.
Yep, the most recent link I dropped over in the chat, that is actually a link to the spreadsheet that I was using for the food baskets that we did around the holiday season. I realized that we are not formal and official, but I thought documentation of money that's donated should be very, very clear. So that's something we have in our records as well.
Thanks, Marco.
Super pro transparency.
All right, it is a little bit past when we aim to have this done. Is there anything else that we need to hit on before we go?
Question, is the intention that we are going to have the February 14th meeting when we're going to elect the board? Like, is that when we're going to try to become an official PTO?
I don't think that's
I-
enough time to make sure there are nominations and things. I think we need to put it out to the whole school beforehand. And I think that it's probably, I didn't actually even ask you what you guys thought, but my feeling is March is the earliest we would be able to do that.
I believe
you're
there's a
thinking-
rule about the amount of time that we have to post it before we can hold the elections.
So then we potentially shore up the bylaws and the mission statement for the 14th. And so we could discuss if we need to during that meeting, then we set a date as to when we would then have the elections, put it out there to everyone. And potentially that is a good time then to send out an email blast to everyone to say, hey, we're going to have a PTO, you know, board meeting where we're going to select board members. This is what it is. This is how you opt in. This is our mission statement. These are our bylaws. I mean, is that kind of the general thought then? Okay, so would it be
That's what I'm
the
hearing.
March SSC meeting then would be when we would try to elect the officers and become official and then submit paperwork?
That sounds like a pretty good goal.
Which is
Okay.
also the 14th.
All right, yeah.
Silly
February, March,
So
April, May.
depending on how much leeway time we need to have the information out there for nominations for members, board members, for officers, if that coincides with enough time before the next SSC meeting of the 14th of March, I think that is something to aim for. Then we've got goals.
I'd like to add something, in terms of just doing an email blast, and relying on the various social media and apps that we discussed. I think we should also, there's no like one silver bullet that will get everyone involved. So I think, because some people are very savvy with tech, other people are just lazy. I think if we hit like all venues stuff, you know, flyers in people's backpacks, posted on the front door, have a little poster by the car line, and then use all the different technologies that we have. Because one, I think that'll reach more people, and two, it also gives us a sort of covers us in terms of you know, the people who say that they weren't informed and like, well, you got to meet us halfway. We, sent up the flare, we sent up the big fire. We did, everything we could. And, because I think March 14th is a little bit short unless we try all avenues of communication with people. Then we're covered, in terms of transparency. Oh, by the way, are we doing nominations yet? Because I have an idea for nomination.
I saw that look.
I'm so happy right now. Who nominate away? I just want to hear.
Oh, me? Well, I think, Deborah, who speaks with big words and is so knowledgeable and experienced, should be Empress of the world, but I would settle with PTO. So there.
President, want her to be president?
No, I'd say I want her to be Empress, but I will settle for president.
Walter, I want you to be Empress because that just was such
I'm
a
busy with Austria-Walteria. We seceded in 2019. We have our own country, way before Murcia. Way before Murcia. That's right.
Actually, can I back up one quick second? Walter, you beat me to it. When he was saying about the signs at the car pickup line, I'm going to volunteer Walter to create a dry erase sign that we can whip out there each time that is, branded and marketed. So everybody knows when they see it, it has to do with SSC/PTO because that's what Walter does. So he's really great at that. So
I'm going to get
Walter.
my green sign, Deb.
Stephanie, you're not on the hook. Stephanie, you still have to walk up and down the line. That's it.
Oh, I could make a sandwich board for
She
Stephanie.
doesn't need a sandwich.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm not saying she needs it. I can do it.
Pom-poms.
I can do, well, she can do that. That's her, yeah.
I'm totally teasing. I know we're over time, Marco. Oh,
Okay.
was gonna
Well,
say
I
for-
wrote down that nomination, but we'll also have
Oh.
that.
yeah.
That's a good question, though. How does that work with nominations?
So
yeah,
that, go ahead.
I was just going to say, you have to have a nomination, you have to have a second, and the nominee has to accept.
Will totally second
Like, how
that.
do we do that?
I mean, we can take notes of what we said right now, but until we are officially recording minutes, it's superfluous.
In the
The
February 12th SSC meeting?
At the February 14th, if
Or
we plan to take notes, like proper minutes, we could totally put out nominations at that time.
let's shoot for that, don't you think?
I think that we need to have enough leeway for people to know that we're doing that. I don't think there's enough time to do that. I don't think
March
that
is
is.
nominations, April will be the vote.
Oh,
Well, the nominations and
Yeah.
vote can be in the same meeting, but
Yes.
I agree. I don't think,
Oh.
the 14th of February is soon enough, but
and
it can
nominations
be-
can happen right up to the vote.
right.
They don't have
But
to
they
be in a
happen when we're taking minutes?
on Discord in the air with a carrier pigeon. They can nominate.
I would
Something
prefer
I-
a stork.
I thought Marco
Right.
said that nominations have to be noted during a meeting with minutes.
Oh,
Uh,
okay. Well,
well,
there you have it. No carrier
yeah.
pigeons.
So we could potentially do nominations during the meeting on February 14th or during the meeting on March 14th. We could do both.
What Walter was talking about with the flyers in a backpack. Who wants to talk to Robert about that?
I can email him. The biggest problem with that is really what it ends up doing is asking the staff to do more work. The thing we could do is we could print them up and we could see if we could hand them out at Carline to parents and guardians and friends, or ask if we could hand them to the students, but that'd be something I don't think asking them to backpack them is going to be.
Sure.
We can ask. I just don't anticipate the answer being yes.
So generally, I'm that person. I'm happy to stand out and look silly, but I'm not going to be here that week. So I would be able to get all of that printed. If somebody gave me the stuff to get printed, I would get it printed and I would give it to someone. It sounds like Walter, who's going to have a sandwich board, and to stand at Carline and hand that stuff out. You think? I'm just kidding, Walter. We're just getting to know each other. So
I'm
But that-
dead serious, and we haven't even, no.
Passing that stuff out should happen before the March 14th, should happen like the week before, right?
no, so I'm talking about, okay, whenever, oh, so you're thinking I still could do it.
I wasn't angling, but that we should be passing stuff out and putting up the sign the week before the March 14th.
Honestly, I
Big
think we should be doing it as soon as possible.
Yeah,
I could do it as soon as possible. If somebody gets me the media, I'm happy to go do that next week.
Okay, I can print stuff. And
You guys work on the media, you print it out, you get it to me. I will do that. I will do that next week.
okay, and then
So,
Stephanie,
this
you
step
and I
one.
and Marco need to have a meeting before the 14th. So in the next week and a half,
Okay.
to flesh out the mission.
And then we have to have somebody, we need a high school representative though. Who is gonna do this silliness at the high school?
Steve will not do it. My husband carts both Marco and my kids for the high school, so I can probably set up so that I can do pickup one of the days and
Or do you feel like
Eric?
Erica would put things in backpacks? Because she has a smaller,
That's true. It's about half.
We could also ask
Um,
the student council if they'd be willing to help with that. We're starting on the 14th. We will have a student from each school that we could leverage that.
Hang
Okay.
on just a second. Allow me to ask one of the student council non-officers.
oh,
she looks like she's in pain.
I think we got a lot done.
Yeah. Well, Kat's waiting for Liam. I just want to confirm our meeting after stuff. I have Deb noted as the person that will file the official paperwork for incorporation. Mission is going to be Jennifer, Stephanie, and Kat, and bylaws will be Marco and Rose. Is that accurate to what everyone understands?
And Carla's doing it all. She's joining all of the subgroups.
Especially the tutu and pom-poms with the sandwich board.
Okay, sounds good.
Liam is going to find out and get back to me. He does not know. He's not actually one of the officers, but he will ask Lily, who is I believe she's the president of the student council at the high school.
I believe she'll also be on the 14th. She will be our high school student on the 14th.
There you go.
Carla, a mission I could give you is, can you pass that link to the the connection page of the Greenspire site over to Agnes so that she can opt in if she'd like to be?
Yep.
Excellent. All right.
And Jennifer and Walter, did you want to volunteer for anything else? I don't want you to feel like we have just been like, okay, you're here and with your pretty faces, but
So there we go. So now are we expecting a sign from Walter, a Blackboard sign, Deborah? That was a request, right?
I'm expecting it, but
She is the Empress. I mean,
Blackboard sign.
Okay, well, I'm most effective in the role of henchman, so, yeah.
we'll
get
do
back
as
to you
well
next
if you're
month.
given a task.
well, I think with that,
but we can only talk about that before we're official.
All right. I guess have an amazing night, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.